Hi, today I'm going to talk about a very sensitive topic, which is the debate about the number of working hours. Many senior professionals have made comments about the number of working hours that should be there in India. I've worked in India. I've lived there many years and I worked for a couple of years before moving to Europe. It's been over 10 years I've been working in Europe. So I'd like to draw a comparison between the number of working hours and everything else regarding the job between India and Europe. In Europe, most people work for anywhere between 32 to 40 hours. I have not seen many people working beyond 40 hours. There may be exceptions, but most people work a maximum of 40 hours and majority work 36 hours. In Netherlands, where I live and work, people work for 36 hours. In some people even work for 32 hours, and depending on how many hours you put in, you get paid, right? In India there is a talk about working 90 hours a week, and I think CEO of a very large company made a statement that we should have 90 hours of work week, and if he had the power, he would make people work 90 hours a week. I think at the outset I would say that's pretty nonsense. Working 90 hours a week is practically impossible for most people, and if you do that, I think you will ruin your health. Everything else that comes, it's secondary, right? You may be paid, you may grow in your career, but what's the point in growing in your career when you don't have good health? I think that's plain nonsense, and I don't think anybody at that level, right, at CEO, CFO, chief CTO level, or the board members, they work 90 hours. I don't think they even work 70 or even 60 hours. So people who don't work that many hours, are talking about making it 90 hours. So let's make a comparison between Europe and that of India. In Europe, people don't work that many hours, and still they are very productive. These countries are doing well. They have done very well economically. Lot of innovation is happening in various fields in Europe. Compared to that of India, I would say the level of innovations that I have seen in UK and other parts of Europe is actually much better compared to that in India. And despite the work culture being very good, and people not having to spend like 50, 60, 70 hours in office, right? So productivity is not necessarily directly correlated to the number of hours you put in, right? You may work less number of hours and still being very productive in your work. So there is no direct correlation. I think there is even a lot of research out there that people who work longer hours need not necessarily be very productive. Even if I compare myself, when I used to put in like 60 hours plus, I was not necessarily doing the work very efficiently, So I think that is something to take into account. And more than the number of hours, it's also about the work culture, right? If the work culture is good, it's not toxic, your boss is not just yelling you, shouting at you, or screaming you, or not micromanaging you, and there's so much of respect in the team, in the department, then the number of working hours doesn't matter much. I mean, you could work, let's say, 40 hours in a week, maybe 60 hours the other week if you have deadlines and if you have more work, right? I think many employees would be happily work longer hours if they have to, under certain circumstances, if the work culture is really nice. But if you have a bad work culture, and that's something I came across in India, that a lot of the managers actually are not well trained to manage people. Sometimes they lose temper, and there is no issue with even yelling and screaming and shouting and creating negative atmosphere. And even if you escalate the matter to higher managers, nothing really happens. In that kind of an environment, you can have burnout, even though if you work like less number of hours. If you have higher number of hours, surely you will be burnt out, and you will lose interest in many other things, and you will go through bad mental health, right? In Europe, people work for 35 or 36 hours, 40 hours, and if you have problem with your manager, you can go and talk to the HR. You can have escalation route to escalate against your manager if the manager behaves like that. Most managers are well trained to behave properly. I think most people have better sort of experience with managers, but also colleagues here in Europe compared to in other countries in Asia or other parts of the world, where you have clear hierarchy, and once you reach a certain level, you feel like you are powerful and you can dictate anything. So the manager and employee relationship is not that great. That's what I felt in India, right? And the other things also. For example, if you fall sick, you don't have to ask for permission to get leaves in Europe, right? You can take as many days as you want to. There's no limitation to how many days of leaves you get if you fall sick. In fact, in many countries, including in Netherlands, you can get paid 100% for up to 2 years. Like you get paid 2 years for your sickness. In India, companies stop paying you, I think, after 10-20 days. And in many cases, they will even terminate your job if you fall sick for a couple of months. And I've experienced that happening to many people. In fact, a friend of mine had an accident a month after he joined the company, and he was hospitalized for 2 months. And when he returned back, he didn't have the job. He was already terminated while being in the hospital. So such experience will not motivate people to work longer hours, right? So there is no way people will work that many hours if the companies, you cannot have a one-way love, right? Working in a company is more like a relationship, professional relationship. It has to be win-win for both, and the company has to put as much effort as the employee is putting for it. Otherwise, and especially in bad times, right? You're going through health issues, you're going through family issues, or your acquaintances having issues, health issues, your parents having health issues. If those times the company is not helping you out and is not being a bit liberal with you, and is not flexible with your number of working hours and everything else, then it's not going to work, right? But the other things also, the L&D CEO made this remark about 90 hours, and Mr. Murthy has also made this remark about working for 70 hours in a week. But see the difference in the compensation in India. In Europe, the CEO makes anywhere between $1 million or less than that. Most CEOs make in that salary, but the starting salary is like 50,000 euros, right? It's like 20 times. The CEO makes about 20 times the fresher salary. In India, many of the listed companies, including L&T and Infosys CEO, they make anywhere between 30 to 40 crores, which is roughly about 4-5 million euro. But what is the starting salary in Infosys or in L&T? I'm sure it's 5 lakhs, right? 5 lakhs is how much? 6,000 euro, right? So 3 million. So that's like, many times higher. So the gap is much higher between a senior employee and a chief executive board member and fresh out of, that's like 500 times. So it's insane. 50 times. Not 500 times, but the gap is just insane, right? So it's important therefore to think about that in a work culture where the senior employees are extremely highly paid, where the junior employees simply don't get much money. How will they be motivated to work that long, right? And second thing is that if you work longer hours, you should get paid for that. In Europe, that is a regulation. The government regulation mandates that you get paid more if you have to work longer hours. Nothing of that sort is there in India, in many other countries as well. So I think that's very unfair if somebody is expecting to do 70 or 90 hours. In fact, I would say even if you get paid for extra hours, you should not work for 90 hours a week. That's not good for health. When you're young, in your 20s, you will not realize that. But once you, mid 30s or early 40s, you'll start realizing that, it has impact on your mental and physical health. In Europe, people work until 65, 67, 70. Even the retirement is 67. They're working happily even at the age of 60, 65. I've seen many people doing that. But in India, I've seen people who are in the mid 40s in the private sector. They have no interest to continue. Many of them simply don't want to, because a lot of burnout. It's simply because just working longer hours, working in toxic environment. So I think that's something I would advise the younger generation not to pay too much attention to these rich people who are making such nonsensical statements. How about the social security? In Europe, you have good social security. So if you lose your job, the company will pay you some compensation. There will be severance pay, but there will also be other benefits for you, right? You have pensions available to you, and so on and so forth. So, but that's not available to you in India. So in good times, you work for 90 hours, but in bad times, the company will let you go. Even though you didn't make any mistake as such, that's not your fault, but the company will simply let you go, right? So and the reason is simple, because the company will let you go because the guys at the top, they're not going to compromise on their salary. They will continue to make 40 crores a year. So if there is an impact for whatever reason, a company is in a bad situation, they will first let go the employees at the junior level, but also somewhere in the middle level manager level. Okay, and the third thing is that the labor laws, right? In India, I'm not too sure if the labor laws actually permit to work beyond certain hours. In Europe, that's not. I mean, it is clear demarcation as to beyond what you cannot work, right? You cannot make your employees work beyond certain number of hours. I do not know the exact, but I do not know any company that mandates working beyond 40, 45 hours in Europe. I think that's not even legally allowed, right? And the kind of support that you get from the companies is amazing, actually, compared to what I have experienced in India. During COVID times, I had a very close friend and a colleague actually who died, and is an Indian guy but working in Netherlands. He was in India at that time and he died. His wife was given all the support from here in Amsterdam. She was given the support, all kinds of support, financial support, but otherwise even I can't think of an Indian company doing that kind of thing. In fact, many Indian company just let go people during COVID times and didn't bother to even ask how they're doing and so on. So the difference is quite huge, and there is no reason why one would be motivated to work 60, 70 hours per week. I can understand why they're saying the economic growth and so on, but economic growth should not come at the cost of the health, mental health. And if really, these people, the senior people, want people to work harder and longer hours, then make sure that they're well compensated first. It should not be too extreme, like 90 hours is too long, I would say. But yeah, 60 is possible in your 20s, but make sure that they are well compensated, right? The extra number of hours that they work, people should be compensated for that. And then there should be also better better work environment, right? Making sure that there's a positive environment and there's open communication. There's no too much of a hierarchy where the manager is just getting mad on small things and creating a lot of trouble for other people. So those things must be there. Only then the young people will be motivated to work longer hours and be productive and so on, right? Otherwise, it's a pointless argument. It's a pointless debate even, right? That's something I want to share, but let me know your views, your thoughts in the comment section. And thanks for watching. Thank you.